In session 2 video, we discussed about the first two major relief divisions of India, about Himalayas and the northern plains of India. So in this video, we will discuss the remaining major relief divisions of India. The third major relief division of India is the Indian Plateau. The Indian Plateau is also known as the Peninsular Plateau because it is surrounded by the water bodies on its three sides. On the west we have Arabian Sea, to the east we have Bay of Bengal, and to the south we have Indian Ocean. So this peninsular plateau, once it was part of Gondwana land, which is made up of old crystal rocks and hard igneous and metamorphic rocks. So its average elevation is about 600 to 900 meters. It is a dry region, and here the rivers are not perennial. We discussed the word perennial in the last video. The word perennial means the rivers which have the water throughout the year. Here the rivers are not perennial, it depends upon the season. And here we find metallic and non-metallic mineral resources. This region is rich in mineral resources. And here the Aravalli forms its boundary on the northwest and the northern edge of the Bundelkhand upland on the north and Rajamahal Hills on the northeast. On the south, the Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats form the western and eastern edges respectively, and the southernmost tip of this plateau is Kanyakumari. And this peninsular plateau is divided into two: the Malwa Plateau, which is also known as the Central Highlands, and the second one is the Deccan Plateau. In this picture, you can see the different plateaus of India. So the Malwa Plateau and the Deccan Plateau is separated by the river Narmada. The Malwa Plateau is bounded by the Aravallis on the northwest and by the Vindhyas on the south. The Aravalli range is one of the oldest fold mountain system in the world, and this Deccan Plateau is bounded by Satpura range on the north and Western Ghats on the west and Eastern Ghats on the east. Let's see the difference between Western Ghats and the Eastern Ghats. Western Ghats are also known as the Sahyadri range, and this Western Ghats lies parallel to the west coast. The structure of these Ghats is continuous with a few passes as the gateways to the coastal plains, and these Western Ghats are higher than the Eastern Ghats. And here the Western Ghats extends for 1600 kilometers from north to south. So near the Gudalur, the Nilgiris join the Western Ghats and they rise to over a height of about 2000 meters. And the famous hill stations of this region are Udagamandalam, which is also known as Ooty, and another one Dodabita with an height of 2637 meters. These two are in Tamil Nadu. And the other hills in this region are Annamalai and Kadamam in Kerala, and the highest peak in this South India is Anaimudi with 2619 5 meters in the Annamalai of Kerala state. Now let us see the Eastern Ghats. Eastern Ghats are small compared to the Western Ghats, and these Eastern Ghats extends from Mahanadi Valley in the north to Nilgiris in the south, and these are irregular line of hills which are not continuous, and the average altitude of these Ghats rarely exceeds 900 meters. And here the rivers which originates in the Western Ghats like Godavari and Krishna cut across the plateau and join the Bay of Bengal. The highest peak in this Eastern Ghats is Aromakonda, found at Chintapalli with an height of 1680 meters, which is in Andhra Pradesh. And these Nallamalas, Velikondas, Palakondas and Sesachalas are some of the hilly regions in the Eastern Ghats. So one of the remarkable feature of this peninsular plateau is that black soils which are formed because of the volcanic activity. The next major relief division of India is the coastal plains. So the Deccan Plateau is flanked by the coastal plains, with all along the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal. The west coastal plain is narrow and uneven by hilly terrain. It stretches from Rann of Kutch to Kanyakumari. From the south of Karwar to Kanyakumari, the coastal lowland widens out, and in Kerala the coastal land is faced by great extensions of long bars and lagoons. In Kerala, the lagoons and backwater form the excellent waterways. On the north, the Konkan coast is of 50 to 80 kilometers wide and is generally flat. To the north of Konkan coast, the coastal land widens into the alluvial plains of the Tapti and Narmada, and further north to Gujarat plains formed by the Sabarmati, the Mahi, and several other rivers. So this plain is uneven and broken by hilly terrain. It can be divided into three parts. The Konkan coast. This is in the northern part. It touches Maharashtra and Goa. And the second one is Canara coast. This is the middle part. It includes coastal plains of Karnataka. And the last one is Malabar coast. This is the southernmost part, mostly in the state of Kerala. In contrast to the plains of west coast, the east coastal plains are wider and flat. They consist of most fertile and well-watered deltas of the major rivers. The Mahanadi Delta in Orissa, the Krishna and Godavari deltas in Andhra Pradesh, and the Kaveri Delta in Tamil Nadu are very fertile and alluvial grounds for the development of agriculture. And this plains extends up to about 100 kilometers width along the Krishna Delta, and it is 130 kilometers inland along the Kaveri. These coastal plains are known by different names locally. Utkal coast in Odisha, Sarkar coast in Andhra Pradesh, and Coromandel coast in Tamil Nadu. And in these Indo-Gangetic plains, these deltas too are agriculturally developed. And the important lakes in this region are Chilika in Odisha and Kolleru and Pulicat in Andhra Pradesh are other important features of these coastal plains. And the next one is the Thar Desert. To the northwest of the Aravallis, it lies the Thar Desert. It is the largest desert of the Indian subcontinent and also known as the Great Indian Desert. It covers an area of 2 lakh square kilometers. It occupies much in Rajasthan and a very little part in Haryana. And this Thar Desert consists of an undulating surface with high and low sand dunes, separated by sandy plains and low barren hill. Some of the sand dunes reaching a height of 150 meters, and here the rainfall ranges from 10 to 50 centimeters. So with this, the vegetation is very less. We can find some stunted scrub type of vegetation here. Here the minerals are available but that are unexploited. But in recent dates, the natural gas, gypsum, limestone and salt are now being exploited. So the settlements in this region are mostly found near Jodhpur, Bikaner and Jaisalmer. Luni is the only river that flows in this Thar Desert region. Now let's see the island groups of India. There are two island groups in India. One is Andaman and Nicobar Islands in Bay of Bengal and Lakshadweep Islands in the Arabian Sea. Andaman and Nicobar Islands is an elevated portion which is submerged mountain parts running from Myanmar mountain in Arkan Yoma. In Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the Narcondam and Barren Islands are of volcanic origin. And here, the southernmost tip of India is found in this Nicobar Islands, but it is submerged during 2004 tsunami. And the next one is Lakshadweep Islands, and these Lakshadweep Islands are of coral origin. It has a total geographical area of 32 square kilometers, and these islands are very famous for great variety of flora and fauna. Now let's see how these coral reefs are formed. When the aquatic animals die in water, Their bodies were lying on the surface of water, and due to the wear of water, these bodies go to the corner of the ocean or sea, and they become very bad due to the action of air and sand, and they become a coral reef. So, in this way, the coral reefs are formed. Hope you understood. If you have any doubts, please mention in the comment section. Thank you. Please do subscribe our channel.